Hello, this is Todd Wall from Aquatong Media. A couple days ago, the presidential debate was held between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. I think the general consensus, at least among the media, was that Kamala Harris won the debate pretty handily. And I think that's reflected in reality. On the political betting website Predicted, the odds prior to the debate were around 50-50, and afterwards it was more around 55% Harris, 45% Trump. So clearly, the debate did affect Harris's odds positively and sort of was seen to hurt Donald Trump. And so there was an article that came out that I think is interesting to read and reflect on after that debate. And the title of the article is "Young Women Increasingly Identifying as Liberal." And so the article begins, "Young women are trending more liberal now than a decade ago, specifically on issues of abortion, the environment, gun laws, and race relations," according to a Gallup study released Thursday. From 2017 to 2024, an average of 40% of women aged 18 to 29 identified as liberal, 12 points higher than from 2001 to 2007, and 15 points higher than young men in the same age range. So in a period of around, let's call it 20 years, the percentage of women identifying as liberal went from 28 to 40%, and women currently identifying as liberal outnumber men roughly. Women, it's 40%, men, it's 25%, so clearly women are more liberal than men. I don't think that's any news. I think generally people kind of understand that. I think the issue of Roe versus Wade has clearly contributed to this. The overturn of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court clearly has had, a very strong energizing impact on the left, particularly among women. And I think that's really galvanized, a lot of women in terms of their identification as being part of the left. The article continues, "On the issue of abortion, gun laws, and the environment, women with liberal perspectives also increased by 15 points per Gallup survey. Young women's views on other issues like the death penalty, healthcare policy, labor unions, government regulation, and the Israeli-Hamas war slanted slightly more liberal than in the past." That's interesting. I don't know how exactly the way they present this survey. It's basically from 20 years ago until now, and so the Israeli-Hamas war didn't really sort of happen 20 years ago. I guess there's always been conflict in Israel, but it's interesting the way they phrase that. However, their beliefs around some other topics, this is referring to women, like defense spending, did not show significant change. While women's ideals moved closer to liberals, the analysis showed young men's views veered more towards moderate than liberals in the last 25 years. Notwithstanding their slightly lower liberal self-identification, young men have also become more likely to hold the liberal positions on these issues, but the increases have been smaller. So that's interesting. What they're basically saying is how people identify themselves, or self-identification. Do you describe yourself as a liberal, as a moderate on the right? It's sort of changed for men. They become less inclined to identify themselves as liberal, although when they ask them, the actual underlying issues, like how do you identify your belief system, it seems like their views haven't really changed all that much and aren't significantly different from women. So for some reason, women are much more likely to identify as liberal even when they hold the same views as men. So I don't know the reason for that, but that would be interesting to kind of study that and learn a little bit more about that. The article continues, "Former President Trump and Vice President Harris are competing to draw support from young voters. Surveys show Harris leading Trump among the demographic, and the Democratic nominee bringing in more support from the age group than President Biden did before dropping from the race." The latest numbers came from an analysis of surveys taken between January 2001 and July 2024 of adults aged 18 to 29. So I think, it's interesting. I guess these trends are sort of well known. I think in terms of how they affect the polling and the outcome of the presidential election in 2024, it's probably already baked into the cake in terms of, women being more inclined to identify or to self-report themselves as being liberal. So I don't think it's really going to change much in terms of the polling that you see or the projections for the outcome of the presidential race. But it is interesting how, people's views, when broken down by gender, change over time, and how that change is diverging among men and women. Men are becoming more conservative overall, or at least not veering to the left, and women are continuing to kind of, drift more towards the left and identifying as having, liberal views. So what do you think about these trends, and how do you think they're going to affect politics going forward, not just in terms of the 2024 presidential election, but beyond that? I'd be interested in knowing what your comments and thoughts are. Please leave any comments you have in the comment section below. And please don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. Until next time, I look forward to speaking to you again. Peace out.